Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining for today's session. Today we have His Grace Madhav Sharan Prabhu with us, who is giving his association. So, on behalf of Nityam Bhagavata Seva, welcoming you, Prabhu, to the forum. Thank you. And I request you to now go ahead and then share the nectar with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. First of all, I would like to take the blessings of all the assembled devotees. And today we are covering the shloka from the 5th canto, chapter 14, verse number 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shloka 11. Kvachid Uluka Chilli Swanavad Atipurusha Rabasatopam Pratyaksham Paroksham Va Ripuraja Kula Nirbhartsitenati Vyatita Karna Moola Radayah. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation goes like this. Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Purport. There are different types of enemies within this material world. The government chastises one due to not paying income taxes. Such criticism, direct or indirect, saddens one, and sometimes the conditioned soul tries to counteract that chastisement. Unfortunately, he cannot do anything. So, this chapter is entitled The Forest of Enjoyment. Actually, the full name is The Material World as the Great Forest of Enjoyment. So, how the conditioned soul is trying hard for the struggle of existence, mm, in to live, just live in the material world. That is being explained uh, in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, and still he is not understanding that he has to get out of the material world. So harassment is coming from the enemies and the government servants, but he is still, his heart is saddened, and he is depressed, or he is not happy, but still he is not understanding that this material world is a place of a misery. Mamupetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam. So, living entity looks for the happiness in the material world. He want to enjoy. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the criticism, direct or indirect, saddens one. And sometimes the conditioned soul tries to counteract that chastisement, but unfortunately, he cannot do anything. So the material world is very, very fearful. It's a very dangerous place. This is the nature of the world, because Krishna has created this material world in such a way. So in 15th chapter, uh, Krishna says, Mamevamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana manah shashtanindriyani prakriti stani karshati. So with the senses plus the mind, the living entity tries hard uh, to work in the material world. It's so painful for him to work, even in the IT industry or other fields also nowadays. The number of hours are increasing month by month, year by year. Mm, Previously, there was more relaxed work, and as Kali Yuga is progressing, more harassment by the companies or the managers or senior colleagues, or working for 12 hours, 14 hours, still they are not satisfied. And here it is said the government is taxing the people. So indirectly they want to squeeze the money. So in various ways, either the exploitation happens, or the living entity himself undergoes various type of tribulations, difficulties to just sustain, uh, to just live in the material world. Mm. So government, actually, if one follows the rules of the government, then he's happy. But if he's breaking the rules, then he's put into jail. So similarly, there is God's law, and if Jivatma breaks the law of the God, then he has to come to the material world. Then Jiva forgets the Lord, then he has to be under the clutches of three modes of material nature. So Krishna bhuliya jeev bhogwancha kare, pashate maya tar japatiya dare. When the living entity forgets Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, then he is coming into the control of the three modes of material nature, sattva, rajas, tamas. Mhm. Then all struggle and difficulties start to follow, and they arise if you don't follow the God's law. Mhm. So even in the material world, as much as we follow the God's law, that much, to that extent we will be peaceful. To the extent we are breaking the God's law, to that extent we will be suffering. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Ete chamsha kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So Krishna is the supreme master. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Krishna is the supreme proprietor. And we are the servants. Jivera Swarup hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. Uh, So if even if we ask the question, is it possible that can we go away from the position of servants and become masters? The answer is no. The king thinks that he is the master of the citizens, but in one sense, he is serving the citizens. So he is a servant. The husband in the house thinks he is the master of the house, he is master of wife and children, but he works so hard outside just to collect money, and he is the servant of his wife and children. And one keeps the dog thinking that the dog will give him happiness, and he serves the dog. He feeds him and he takes him out to respond to the nature's call. Mm. And he is the servant of the dog, but he thinks that I'm the master of the dog. So in all circumstances, we are just servants. Uh, Whether we are taking shelter of the material nature or whether we are taking shelter of the spiritual nature. So we are simply the servants. So the intelligent person asks, so however I am the servant, so why not become the servant of Krishna? Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayora Dasa Dasanudasa. But the bewildered living entity, he will think that I am the master. So that is the illusion actually. Even the one who is serving the country, he thinks that mm, I am the master of this country. I'm the president. I'm the prime minister. Mm. So he thinks, but he is serving the. Actually, he is also a servant. So Srila Prabhupada in many times speaks about Mahatma Gandhi, how he served the country. But he could not satisfy some section of the people, and ultimately he was shot dead. But if we become the servant of Krishna, and even if we render little bit of devotional service, that we are noticed by Krishna. Neha Bikramana pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapi yasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So it said, Swalpamapiyasya dharmasya, even little bit of endeavor in this path saves one from the most fearful situation or the dangerous situation. So we have to, it is better to serve Krishna. But people are so foolish, they are not understanding. They think that if I serve my senses, if I serve the other people, I will be happy. In here it's mentioned about the government. So there will be some posts in the government, and lakhs of students are applying for one few hundreds of posts, and they work so hard for writing the exam. They study like 10 hours, 12 hours in a day, and then they write, somehow clear the exam. Then after the exam, there will be interview. Then somehow attend the interviews. What is the intention of the student? He will think that if I get this job, I will be happy. So to get the job, he will work hard, thinking that he will be happy. This is another illusion. So in the purports of this particular chapter, Srila Prabhupada clearly he writes that there is no happiness in the material world. It is just like a drop of water in the desert. So Srila Prabhupada says this. And another point Srila Prabhupada says, throughout the chapter, he is stressing on the fact that the illusioned one who is illusioned, under the illusion, he thinks the material world as the forest of enjoyment. But what does the devotee see? It as the forest fire. So that's why in the morning when we get up, we do Mangalarti. Samsara dhava nalalida loka Tranaya karunya gana ganatvam. So that this verse Srila Prabhupada is mentioning most of the time in this particular chapter. Even two verses after he says, saying that one should approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the struggle for existence. Actually, the devotee can see this material world as forest fire. Then what is the solution to extinguish this? It is praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya vande guru sri charanara so Gunarnavasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravind. So the Ghanatvam is the Vasudeva Katha, which the Guru gives, that acts like a pouring rain. Only when the rain is pouring from the top, that the forest fire can be extinguished. So we need to approach a bona fide guru and surrender to him and hear from him the Krishna Katha. So that is like his karunya and ghanatvam. So with that, what will happen? The forest fire can be extinguished. Otherwise, one is into this forest fire and he is going on and on with various species of life after life. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshanu darshanam. So one is repeatedly going life after life in various species of life, thinking that he will be getting the happiness. So even in the beginning of the chapter, this Srila Prabhupada says, Nana yoni sada fire, kardarya bhakshana kare. So he goes into different species of life, and what he does, he eats most abominable things and things that he is very happy. Tara janma ada pate yaya. So in this whole thing, his whole life is spoiled. But one who has come to the point of practicing devotional service and taking shelter of Guru, he is very bhagyavan, he is very fortunate. Brahmanda brahmite kaun bhagyavan jeev, Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bij. So that's why we have to serve Vaishnavas, we have to serve Guru, we have to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are so many services. Krishna, even in running the universes, Devatas are helping Krishna to manage the universal affairs. And Srila Prabhupada says, if you work for Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your problems will be mitigated. So material nature is very full of fearfulness. So many dangers. So Maya first bewilders the living entity by alluring it into the sense gratification. And if it is not happening, then it creates the fear. But when one takes the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uh, Krishna, then one becomes fearless. The best example explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam is uh, Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, his father was Hiranyakashipu, seeing whom even the demigods, they could not see Hiranyakashipu eye to eye. But Prahlad Maharaj was totally fearless. And Hiranyakashipu is like bewildered. He's not understanding why Prahlad Maharaj is not fearful of him. Then he is subjected to so many uh, the kinds of various experiments to kill Prahlad Maharaj. But Prahlad Maharaj is so fearless. He is remembering Lord Krishna, and he is not, Hiranyakashipu is not able to kill Prahlad Maharaj. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj says that this world, material world where we are living, and material life which we are living, so when we are thinking that we are so happy in this material life, that is like a graham andhakupam. So actually there is a verse which here Prahlad Maharaj says, Tatsadhu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyam asad grahat hitvatmapatam grahamandakupam vanam gatoyat dharim ashrayeta. So graham andakupam, but one has to take shelter of Lord Hari and go to Vana, or basically Srila Prabhupada says more specifically go to Vrindavan, where Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and one should take the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that Graham Andhakopam. So one should be very careful that not one does not fall into this deep dark well. Uh, and even there are so many beautiful explanations in the Bhagavatam. How does one should be very very careful not to be affected by the influence of Kali Yuga. That's why in the 12th canto, the description of Kali Yuga is given, that one will not get proper justice. One has to purchase the justice. One who is a rich man, he will purchase the justice by giving the money to the judge. And judge will give the all justice in the favor of uh, the one whoever has paid, the rich person. So he will get the justice. And how the government will tax heavy taxes on the citizens, and even the citizens are trying to avoid the taxes by so many means, and income tax department, they may raid the houses, and at the same time citizens avoid the taxes because citizens think that government employees, they will eat the money and they will do the sense gratification. So they will think, citizens, I will keep the money with me and I myself will do the sense gratification. The whole thing is centered around the sense gratification. Nobody is thinking in terms of keeping Krishna in the center. So everything, I need money, I need this, I need that, everything for the sense gratification. And when one gets the facility also, he is exploiting it, exploiting the sources. And he wants to exploiting the sources, exploiting the facilities just to have sense gratification. Uh, So in this way, we see in the 12th canto, like how will be the Kali Yuga. It is as it progresses, how horrible it will be. Even in today's world, only we are seeing even Kali Yuga is not yet started also. Uh, and we see across the world how much havoc the people are creating, and so many wars, so many disturbances, and so many demoniac elements doing all nonsense things. Uh, and Kali Yuga has not yet begun. It is just a Yuga Sandhi still. And we see so much influence. So, as a whole, uh, living entity is not happy. But Srila Prabhupada says, unfortunately, living entity cannot do anything. He cannot do anything. So previously, in previous ages, when justice needs to be given, king used to handle the situation, and he used to give the justice then and there itself. Mm. And everything was based on values, virtues, dharma. uh, so but nowadays, there is so many adharma is happening. Mm. And as a whole, what will happen? The reactions of the karma will be in such a way, that the material nature will impose so many miseries upon the living entities. So, first of all, living entity has to undergo, birth, death, old age, and disease. We know all the four things, four problems of the life, how much miserable they are. Disease, one if one goes to hospital, so hospitals are like hellish. Uh, and then the birth, in 9 months in the womb of the mother, and sitting or being in the posture of bending, and so many worms are disturbing. So that birth is very miserable. Death is like 40,000 scorpions biting together, because the connection between the subtle body and the gross body has to be cut all at once. And the subtle body, mm, it goes to the next destination along with the soul carries it. Uh, so death is very horrible. Disease is like hellish. Then birth is very painful. Then old age. Old age is also very miserable, because one becomes invalid, or most of the things one cannot do on himself. He has to be dependent for small things on others. Mm. So as a whole, this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi is there. And on the top of it, because of uh, the what the different activities living entities does, material nature will impose adhyatmika, adhibhautika, and adhidaivika kleshas uh, on the living entity. And then the living entity blames God, that God is giving the misery, because he is not thinking, he is acting in a by breaking the laws of the God, that he is not thinking but blames God. So these things are happening. And when one is frustrated, the living entity is frustrated, then he goes to a for relief to a bogus guru, or some who is ready to exploit him to make his living on the money, make money, and he gives some mantra. Uh, so these things are happening. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita or other scriptures, we see previous ages how it was. Actually, Ramananda Rai, he was a government employee, but he left it to serve Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they were ministers. They left that to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there are so many examples. Even Raghunath Das Goswami, how he wanted to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is a story of Gopinath Patnaik, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying in Jagannath Puri. Then some group of people they come and they tell that Gopinath Patnaik has been arrested, and he will be punished. The whole thing happened that Gopinath Patnaik was supposed to collect some taxes, and there was a shortage of some 2 lakh, some whatever that time the currency was there. The 2 lakh was less, and then Gopinath Patnaik he mentioned that I will repay it over the time. But somehow that prince, he was like he Gopinath Patnaik had some 12 to 14 horses, and he told, I can give this and you can price them. And son of the king, he was expert in evaluating the price of the horse, but he evaluates very less price. So Gopinath Patnaik is in trouble. So somehow Gopinath Patnaik says something to the prince, and prince is angry. So all the in the story, what happens? Even Gopinath Patnaik is in trouble. But when people go to Jagannath Puri and say to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "I am a sannyasi. I can't do anything." But somehow later, Gopinath Patnaik is saved. So in this way, so if one is dedicated or devoted to Supreme Lord Vishnu, he will be protected somehow. But some people they worship Lord Vishnu for mukti or siddhi. uh, so they don't know how to take shelter of Lord Krishna. That is why it is said we should not ask anything other than pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam anukulena Krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttama. So Uttama Bhakti, so pure devotional service, that should be Anyabhilashita Shunya. Anya Abhilasha Shunyam. So there is a Swarupa Lakshana in this verse, and there is a Statastha Lakshana. So Swarupa Lakshana are the Anukulena, Krishna and Anushilanam. And the Tatastha Lakshana are the Anyabhilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karmadi Anavratam. So pure devotional service should be free from jnana and karma, and it should not have any anya abhilasha. And the swarupa lakshana, where it is said anukulena, anukulena means it should be pleasing to Lord, and the intention from the devotee will be to please Krishna. So for example, Yashoda Mai chases Krishna to beat him with a stick. That is very pleasing to Krishna, because her intention is she is loving Krishna. She has the pure love for Krishna. But at the same time, Jarasandha, he chases with weapons. He is also chasing Krishna, but that is not anukulena. It is pratikulena. So one first point we have to understand, it should be pleasing to Krishna. And second word, Krishna. Krishna means Krishna and his expansions, maybe Balaram, Narayana, Pradyumna. So all the expansions, and even his, it refers to sometimes even to pure devotees, his pure devotees. And the third word, Anushilanam. Anu means constantly following. Constantly following whom? Previous acharyas. So that is very, very important that we are following the Guru Parampara and the previous Acharyas. That is following and constantly. Constantly means no interruption. Anu means engaging oneself in the service of the Lord 100%. He is completely dedicated and there is no interruption. So, in the uh, no interruption in the broader sense, it also means that every day. So, that is also the meaning. So, one continuously serves the Lord. And Sheelanam is the behavior, or it also actually the devotional service means it's the activity. So without activity, only having the consciousness, it will not help. So that is why Srila Prabhupada says that if one is not continuously engaged in the cultivation of devotional service, it cannot be Uttama Bhakti. It is not pure devotional service. So that is why one should be continuously engaged in the process of devotional service. So devotee means devoted. So he will always do the service. But here we saw the difference, like how even the materialistic persons, they are also serving. They are serving country, they are serving family, but they are never satisfied. But devotee does the service, and when he does the service to Krishna, he is peaceful. Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, Sakala Ashant. Krishna Bhakta Shant. Uh, Krishna Bhakta, that verse is there, I forgot. But that in that verse, Krishna Bhakta is always peaceful, Shant. Ataeva Shant. So Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Shant, because he is not having any material desires. But one who is Mukti Kami or Siddhi Kami or the Bhukti Kami, they cannot be happy. Mm. So this way, so Krishna conscious uh, person, he will be happy and peaceful. So one of the services which devotees generally do in the Gaudiya Parampara, especially in the line of Srila Prabhupada, we are Prabhupadanugas. So one who tries to preach. And since book distribution marathon is going on, uh, so actually preaching, one of the best form of preaching is book distribution. Actually, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he tried to revive this preaching mission. And he told Srila Prabhupada that whenever you have money, you print books. So this printing books and distribution of books is very, very important. Even we see how much trouble Srila Prabhupada took just to publish Back to Godhead magazine, and there was World War II going on. And there was scarcity of paper. And just if you one has to print something, he has to apply to the government and then get the paper and then print. It was the process just for printing itself was so troublesome. But Srila Prabhupada at that time, even he completely single-handedly writing the articles, and even the top, whatever the name is there, Back to Godhead, and the logo, everything he worked himself. And he went to one government officer just to convince him, just to get the paper. And he told how this is so important in the current situation, where people are fighting each other, and there is so much problems, and only Krishna consciousness can save the world. Because if one is in the bodily platform, bodily consciousness, then they will fight each other, thinking that he is my enemy. I should kill him. I should destroy his properties, all the things. But when we understand we are the spirit souls, then the real peace can happen. So that is why first time he approached the government officers just to get the paper. Then he publishes the few copies of BBT, I mean, sorry, BTG, the Back to Godhead magazine. Then for the second printing, again the government rejects his proposal. Then again he has to struggle to convince. Srila Prabhupada did not give it up. And then he again approaches, and then again he prints the second issue. Somehow he convinces and he prints the second issue. So he took so much trouble to print the books, and then uh, actually even single-handedly distributing it. And we know once he became unconscious while distributing the mm, Back to Godhead magazine, and he established BBT to publish his books. And now we have some distribution, like some devotees, they are doing Har Ghar Bhagavatam and trying to distribute as many Bhagavatam copies as possible. So Srila Prabhupada told, when the multiple copies, hundreds of copies, they go to the different people, then they automatically become Krishna conscious, and the whole world can become Krishna conscious. Mm. So that is why as much as possible we have to uh, do this seva of preaching and book distribution. And of course devotees, they assist the preaching. So as a whole, the material world mm, is the miserable place. To conclude uh, what we saw, material world is a miserable place. Birth, death, old age, disease. Then we have Adhyatmika, Adhibhotika, Adhidaivika, Klesha. So as a whole, Dukhalayam. So if one tries to make it Sukhalayam, it is not possible. So intelligent man, he tries to get out of the uh, this place. And how it is possible? It is possible only by pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam anukulena krishnana shilanam bhaktiruttama. So only uh, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uh, uh, it is we can get out of this. There is a saying that uh, unless we surrender to Krishna 100%, we cannot get out of the clutches of material nature. So we have to surrender and follow this verse, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, to get the pure devotional service. Ultimately, actually, uh, it is basically Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, to re-establish our lost relationship. So actually, Krishna Bhuliya Jeev, Bhuliya means because of the forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Lord, we are in the material world. So one of Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Mahatma Prabhu, he says, the only thing which is separating the living entity from Krishna is the desire. So that desire to be with Krishna, since the living entity doesn't have that, that is separating the living entity from Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada says the laulyam which the living entity has to see Krishna, to serve Krishna, that is the price for Krishna consciousness. So we should have that laulyam, the eagerness to serve, eagerness to see Krishna. Basically, we don't try to see Krishna, but still we should have that desire to serve Krishna in such a way. that he is attracted by our service. So when we have that laulyam, then the progress will be very, very fast. So basically, sambandha, abhideya. Abhideya, if we are doing the following the process half-heartedly, we will make very slow progress. But if we, with the same process, if we follow with laulyam, eagerness, then the progress will be very fast. Then ultimately the prayojana is in hands of Krishna. So ultimately Krapa is given by the Lord. So the Krishna Prema is awarded. We cannot claim the Krishna Prema. I have chanted 16 rounds. I have done so much seva. You give me Krishna Prema. We can't demand it. It is ultimately awarded. So Krishna has come as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So he is very, very merciful. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauradishe Namaha. So he is very, very merciful. So both lords, Lord Gauranga, Lord Nityananda, they are very merciful. So Parama Karuna Pahuduhi Jana Nitai Gaurachand. So because of mercy of Nityananda and Gauranga, so when if we are sincerely 100% trying from our side, then they will bestow their mercy upon the souls like us. So, of course, we are fallen souls. Uh, so, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls. So, when we follow whatever the process given by Srila Prabhupada, sincerely, seriously, without any ulterior motives, then Gauranga Mahaprabhu will bestow his mercy, and that is our only hope for success. Then Prayojana is awarded by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So, to conclude, material world is a place of misery. To get out, we have to endeavor to achieve, to strive for pure devotional service and get Krishna Prema. But ultimately, Krishna Prema is awarded by the mercy kripa of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, are there any questions or comments or corrections, or somebody want to add something? Please welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Madhav, Sharan Prabhu, thank you so much. Thank you for the very nice, concise, comprehensive, complete, in-depth, and everything, view of Krishna consciousness. So, in fact, you started off with the material world being the forest of enjoyment, and that's how people see it. But actually, it is a forest fire, or it's like a forest fire where there is only anxiety and there is fear, and there's a lot of running around because of the fire. So, in this way, how the jivas are under illusion, you explained that so nicely. So, you also brought out the point that material world is not a place for enjoyment as thought by the entities generally. But then the living entity continues life after life to get this particular aspect, darshanam. I mean, like, what is that? What darshana that he is getting actually? It is a darshana of dukkha. So, because of janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, so explained those things so well, which we will have to keep on remembering. Otherwise, it becomes difficult because our conditioning is such that we will go back into that earlier thinking of the forest of enjoyment view. We will go back. So many yonis like this, the living entity is going on. That's what you said, and then thinking that we are happy, which is actually an illusion. And then life is being spoiled like that. So we brought out that fact. Then you also said how to get out of this particular illusion, how to get out of the material world, and how to come into Krishna consciousness. And somebody who is in Krishna consciousness is very, very fortunate, Bhagyavan. So in Krishna consciousness, then one has to just serve the Guru, serve the Vaishnavas, serve Krishna, So like that, work for God, work for Krishna, then the material problems become mitigated, or it fades away. It doesn't give us so much of problems. And then we also know that how Maya is always alluring. Even when we are trying to be in KC, then Maya is always alluring us. So we will have to take the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So only then we will be able to make advancement. And also, by taking a shelter of the the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one becomes fearless. So you gave the apt example of Bhakta Prahalad. So as a boy, how he was so fearless because he had taken complete shelter of the Supreme Lord. So generally, all are afraid. And then you saw how Hiranyakashipu, he was not at all afraid. And then, whereas all the others were, including the demigods, all the big personalities of the material world were all afraid of him, but then Prahlad was not. So, and then he also covered how Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the material world as Andhakupa, it's a dark well, and then how he said we have to be wary of it and then not fall into it, but to take shelter of Krishna. And then you also covered the sufferings of Kali Yuga, the various symptoms that are there in terms of how the suffering is so eternal, like taxes and might is right kind of a situation we are in, where the strongest is the right. So that way, even if you are in the right, but if you are weak, then you get overthrown, and that gives a lot of stress to that particular individual. So in this way, you gave a very clear, concise view of the material world, and also the gratification of senses, how it is primed for happiness. You brought that out in the people's mind, how they only want to gratify their senses, thinking it will give them happiness, which is not the case. And actual happiness lies in serving, and also in how you brought out that aspect of developing a relationship with Krishna, Sambandha, then doing activities for Krishna, the Avidheya, and then the Prayojana. So those things you covered so well, Prabhu. So thank you so much for these wonderful points. In fact, you covered the entire gamut of Krishna consciousness, the whole Adhyatmika, and what one needs to do. So that was very wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, devotees, if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead. I'm sure Prabhu will be happy.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
You explained about the lakshanas of Anya Bilasha Sunyam. Can you please tell once again, is it?
Yeah. So this shloka actually describes about the pure devotional service, Uttama Bhakti. So there are something called Swarupa Lakshan, which is the primary characteristics, and there is something called Tatastha Lakshana, so secondary characteristics in this particular shloka. So Tatastha Lakshana are the Anyabhilachita Shunyam, first one, and second one is the Jnana Karmadi Anavratam. So what does this mean? Anyabhilashita Shunyam, no other desire other than Krishna Prema or pure devotional service. That is the secondary characteristic. Then it should be free from jnana and karma. That means the bhakti should not be karma mishra bhakti, or it should not be jnana mishra bhakti. It should be shuddha bhakti. So that is the whole thing. That is the uttama bhakti. That is the secondary characteristic. And the primary characteristics it is the first, this one, Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. So three words, Anukulena, Krishna and Anushilanam. So Krishna, his expansions and his pure devotees. So Anukulena means it should be favorable, pleasing to Krishna. The intention is pleasing Krishna. So the example is Yashoda Mai. Even though she chases and she shows the stick, it is pleasing to Lord. So that's why it's pure bhakti. But whereas Jarasandha, their intention is Krishna, Kamsa and all, their intention is not pleasing to Krishna. So that is not Anukulena. The Jarasandhas, Kamsa, Shishupal, all this is a Pratikula. So that is the Anukulena word. And Anushilanam, in Anushilanam comes two words, Anu and Shilanam. Anu means constantly following. Constantly following whom? So we have to follow somebody. That somebody is following the previous acharyas or Guru Parampara. Mahajanoyena Gatasapanta. So that thing. And Shilanam is the behavior. So behavior means what? Basically, we refer to some activity. So cultivation of bhakti is basically not the thinking of only feelings. For example, some people say that I have so much of devotion that I will cry, I will, you know, uh, perspire, all those things they may tell. But if there is no active engagement, activity, then the what to do with the that bhava or feelings that they have. So that's why Srila Prabhupada says that Uttama Bhakti means one is continuously engaged in the cultivation of devotional service. That means there is a active service. So in short, Anu means engaging oneself in the service of Krishna 100% without any interruption. Without any interruption means actually it is means 24/7, means continuously all 24 hours he will be doing that way. But in the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti level, it means that it is a daily basis. So that way. So these are the words Anu Shilanam. So these three words are the Swarupa Lakshana, Anukulena, Krishna, and Anushilanam. They are the primary characteristics of the shloka. So I hope it's clear.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. So are there any other questions, or if there are some comments or corrections also devotees can share, or your own realizations?
So I think, Prabhu, there are some in the chat also. Saraswati Mataji is saying Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhuji. Thanks for the wonderful teachings. Dayamay Prabhu is saying thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Those are some of the comments there.
Thank you.
So anyone else wants to add anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thanks for
Krishna.
your wonderful class as usual, Prabhu. Prabhu, now I got more confused, Prabhu. Why this Anyabilashita is become secondary characteristic, Prabhu?
That I am not very sure, but secondary characteristics means it is the not the main one, because the initial phases the devotees might be having Anyabhilasha. So preliminary stages, when neophyte stage or thing, there may be so many material desires. But the beauty of Krishna consciousness is such that as one practices it, so he will slowly lose the taste for material activities, material things. So slowly it happens. So then one comes to the stage of Anyabhilashita. So having no material desires. So that's why that it is in the secondary characteristics. That is what is my understanding, but this has to be verified with some senior devotees. So I'm not very sure about this, Mataji. So please forgive me.
Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams, Prabhu.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So maybe Prabhu, Sanatma Prabhu, do you have any viewpoints or any other devotees? Prasadeshwar Prabhu, some for this question.
Yeah, Prasadeshwar Prabhu, you want to say something?
So basically, that is my understanding. But I'm not very sure about it. Maybe we can clarify with some senior devotees. So, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
So, and this particular shloka is from Nectar of Instructions, right, Prabhu?
Nectar of Devotion.
Devotion, sorry. Yeah, Nectar of
Yes.
Devotion.
1.1.
So, actually, I think the way I understood it is they were saying like we have to, the primary thing is to do the devotion, the activity, the bhakti,
Yeah.
the doing it. Even if there is some other intention,
Yeah.
that will again get corrected, like how Madhav Sharan Prabhu you were saying now.
Yes. Yes.
So I think the answer is there somewhere, you know. So that primary thing is to do. Then second,
Yes.
even this becomes secondary because even if there is some other anya abhilashita, some other intention also, which is some personal gain, still do
Yes.
it. Then eventually it will go away. So
Yes.
I think probably the acharyas are classifying it as secondary because of that reason.
Yeah.
So the main
And
thing is
Thank
to
you,
do.
Prabhu.
They
Hare
want to
Krishna.
draw the attention to do the service.
yeah,
with
and even in the beginning, there will be some mishrana of jnana and karma. So it will not be completely pure devotional service, but over the period of time when one practices under the bona fide spiritual master, then the jnana mishra bhakti and karma mishra bhakti, that tendency also will go away. So that is the reason I think they are classified as the tatastha lakshana.
Yes, Prabhu, I understood to some extent, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So devotees, thank you so much. Prabhu, thank you once again
Thank
for
you, Prabhu. Hare
doing your
Krishna.
association. So nice it was. So now we can conclude today's session with Vaishnav pranams. Vancha
Vancha
kalpatarubyascha kripa sindhuveva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnav vrinda ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Madhav ki jai.
Gadositanat Paramaya Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, devotees. So I'll end the session for all. So we'll all meet up again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.